Okay, I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Charlotte, give me extra credit. I just used the word of the day.
I will give extra credit.
This is part of the Better Speaker Series. The Better Speaker Series. Toastmasters International, the Better Speaker Series, is a set of presentations offering instruction on basic speaking skills, designed to be delivered by members to their clubs. Presentations in this series provide new speaking techniques and facts that can help all club members develop their communication skills. They kind of give you these possible strategies, 3 points. There's some nice slides they give you that are rather boring. We're just going to eschew all of that. I'm doing my own thing because I am going to deliver to you pure gold. And even if you don't find my tips helpful, well then maybe it's fool's gold, but it's still shiny, it's still pretty, okay? To continue in the theme of alliteration, the next thing I want to share is A Tale of Two Troys, or Two Tales of Troy. Now, I am not schizophrenic. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Get back in there. That's sort of a mental uncertainty right there, but that's not suspense. Second time I used it, more credit. First tale. When I was younger, I used to be a part of a drama club. I was in a big church. We had a fairly big drama department. We had a fairly big drama club. Sometimes we would get together for our own enjoyment and do improv, kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, but for our own enjoyment, our own group. And man, was it fun. The thing that I could never figure out was how we came up with so much funny stuff. I mean, it was all impromptu. You'd give kind of a theme, somebody would start something, another member would think of stuff. I would think of lots of stuff that was just, we had everyone rolling on the floor. I felt like I was in the zone. And in the zone is a wonderful place to be. It feels great. That's tale number one. Tale number two. One day I was working from home. I had been working from home all day. I had been doing software programming. I had been staring at a screen. I had not uttered a single word to anyone. I did not even, as I often do when I'm programming, think in English. I tend to think in spatial reasoning concepts, relationships of abstract objects. No English. Toward the latter part of the day, I got a phone call. It was a radio station. I was speaking with the DJs live. They wanted to talk with me. Whatever was on my mind. There was nothing on my mind. It was a deer in the headlights experience. I mean, I sort of stumbled through something, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But after I hung up, I was like, oh my word, I blew that opportunity. Okay, I will tell you, I mean, I aspire to be like Robin Williams. The guy can just come up with stuff, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was not a Robin Williams moment. Ever since then, it's got me to thinking, how can I be in the zone sometimes just so easily? I don't even know how I got there, and other times, I'm the deer in the headlights. How does that happen? Well, fellow Toastmasters, your Chipmasters Club, with its table topic section on impromptu speaking, that's what it was created for, to help you to learn the skill of being in the zone more often. Now, I don't know everything there is to know about impromptu speaking. I will be the first to admit that. A different person who would give this project, this presentation, may have totally different things to say. They may be equally as helpful or more so. No, I'm better than them. But, I'm just kidding. But I do think I have figured out a few things over time that are helpful, and I want to share my tips with you. Actually, I wanted to copyright them, write a book, and sell it, but that's not going to happen, so I decided to open source this. You'll have to judge for yourself whether you find it helpful or not. The format is this. I have 6 tips. With each tip, I've created a category. So I'm going to introduce the category and then the tip. But within that, there are some Easter eggs. What I mean is there's some more tips, scattered throughout. But you'll have to identify those yourself. These are the ones I'm going to call out. So let's start with category number 1. Let's play ball. Tip number 1. Impromptu speaking can be hit and miss. for the best of us. Sometimes you get a hit, it just works, and sometimes it just doesn't, or it doesn't go as well as you'd like it to. So, in fact, let's talk about baseball a little bit. Do you know that anybody with a 300, and that's 300 out of 1,000, 300 batting average in professional baseball is considered a good hitter? That's 30%. That's less than 1/3 of the time. If you can walk up to the plate less than 1/3 of the time and get a hit, they pay you millions of dollars. That means 2/3 of the time you strike out or you don't get on base. And yet that's still good. Okay. The honest truth is impromptu speaking is a lot like that. Or it can be, right? So, what do you do with that information? You relax. When you come up here, approach it like a kid playing a game. You might not do that well. So what? Are you a little afraid of it? So what? Have fun with it. If you learn to relax, you will sometimes get a good hit. It'll feel really good. Other times not such a good hit. But you know what? When I was a kid, I always had fun playing, whether I did well or not. In fact, well, I'm going to relate another little story. When I was a young boy, I liked playing baseball a lot. My mom knew this fellow who ran a baseball camp, and the time for my age group had passed, so she talked him into letting me get into this camp with older boys. I was a pretty good hitter. However, I found that at the plate, these pitchers pitched so fast, all I could hit was foul balls. I could not swing my bat fast enough to get it level to hit right out front, so it would tend to hit late, and it would be a foul ball. But I could keep hitting it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to go on forever, and oh, I don't want to not get on base and have everybody think, oh yeah, Troy's too young to be here. So you know what I did? I started crowding the plate closer and closer. Still getting the foul balls. Eventually, that pitcher hit me because I was so close to the doggone plate, he didn't have much room to throw strikes without hitting me. I got on base. It hurt. I cried. But you know what? I got on base. And why do I share that? Because it's what I would call unconventional wisdom. Sometimes in impromptu speaking, you need to use a little bit of unconventional wisdom to do well. And that's part of this, you need to not just think outside the box, you need to step outside the box. Or in this case, I was getting closer into the box. You get the point. Category number 2, I call the great comeback. Now, within the great comeback, we have the tip number 2, which is the 3 P's of impromptu speaking. Can anybody guess what they are? They are preparation, preparation, and preparation. What? You can't prepare for impromptu speeches. Oh, yes, you can. In our table topics portion, when you walk into the meeting, you have 2 pieces of information long before table topics ever starts. And that is, you have a word of the day, and you have a theme. You won't believe what happened next. If table topics is not your thing, but you want it to be your thing, don't wait until you're called up to suddenly, oh, hi, I'm a deer in the headlights, to try to generate content. Start thinking right when you walk into the room, how can I use this word? How can I use this word in light of this theme? Let's see, I'll come up with some examples. And you can come up with possible usages. Look at the theme. You won't believe what happened next. Was there any times in my life when there were some things that happened that were unbelievable? Let me think. These are all stories. These are possibilities. I call them story chunks, because what you do is you come up with possible chunks of content, including a chunk of how you use the word of the day. And then, when you are actually at the point where you're called up and you're presented with a question, you may be able to use those. You may not. I mean, it may not work out, but you may, let's see here, and that goes that goes into my next category, which I call bend it like Beckham. Tip number 3, bend your story to fit the question, or bend the question to fit your story. You very often can take what you've thought of and bend the question. For instance, what is your favorite food? Hypothetical. What if you don't have a favorite food? You could come up and say, my favorite food, what is my favorite food? You know, what are a lot of favorite foods? What are a lot of foods people like? And you can start talking about foods in general. You can come up with a very interesting response. Now, then there's the converse, which is bend your content. Now, I'm not going to suggest always going to an extreme, like, what is your favorite food? And, you know, you come up and you say, you know, while I was on sabbatical, Bueller, anyone, Edwin? You don't want to go that far, but you might be able to, you want to talk about sabbatical, to bend your story and say, my favorite food. You know, while I was on sabbatical, I ate a lot of different things. And, as you know, you can see, you can kind of bend stories to what you have, use what you have. Okay. So, category 4. Popcorn for your thoughts. The tip. If you've done all this preparation, think you've got something good to work with, and at the moment the question is asked, something entirely different pops into your head, go with it. The whole point of all this preparation isn't that you have to use it, it's to get your mind working. It's to get the thoughts flowing. Very often, once you've got the thoughts flowing, other things will pop in. You're beginning to learn how to be in the zone, and when you're in the zone, sometimes you come up with better stuff. Go with it. It often turns out to be gold. Next category I call Captain Jack Sparrow. Tip number 5. Even a pirate knows that you can't steer a ship unless it's moving. Now, I have seen some people get up here, and again, this is another kind of deer in the headlights thing. They stand here and they may even start to talk, and then they just clam up and don't say anything. It's okay to pause a moment when you get up here to gather your thoughts, maybe think of a potential response to the question, but you got to start talking sometime. And when you start talking, keep going. If you don't know what to say, I will counsel you, tell everybody that, hey, I don't know what to say. Start there. It's kind of like writer's block, and I found this strange thing even about that. Sometimes I sit there staring at the keyboard, I can't think, I've got to write an article, I cannot think of a thing to say. And I have literally, I cannot think about what to write. I mean, you know, there is this sort of idea I had, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, it starts flowing. It's kind of the nail soup concept. I don't know if you've ever heard the nail soup story, but, you know, the weary traveler comes upon this stingy old lady and says, hey, I'd like something to eat. Oh, I don't have anything. So, you know, he takes out his pot, puts in water, puts it over the fire, drops in a nail, and she gets curious, well, what's that? Well, it's nail soup. Well, really? That's interesting. Yeah, it's going to be kind of thin tonight. Wish I had a little flour to put into it, thicken it up a little. Well, you know, the stingy old lady says, I think I might have some flour. And this goes on and on. There's onions and carrots. And next thing you know, he has this wonderful pot of soup. He pulls the nail out, and they have this wonderful soup. Your mind has a lot of wonderful treasures in it, but it's kind of stingy. It doesn't want to give them up. It's kind of like that old lady. Sometimes you got to start a little bit slow, and you got to start early, and it gets to flowing, and after a while, it just comes out. It's a wonderful thing. Category number 6, the escape valve. If all else fails, fake a fainting spell and fall to the ground. That sounds funny, but there are some accomplished stage actors who tell themselves this very thing because they have their own fears that they deal with. It's like, well, what if I just go blank? And it's a funny thing. They never have to actually do this, but telling themselves that they have this out works. For every person, it may be a different thing, and for a speaker, it may be something entirely different. I know that when I've been in plays, the thing that works for me is this. I pre-tell myself that if I ever get to a place where I forget my line, I'm just going to relax and mentally laugh at myself. And then, I'm like, I'll just say something else until I remember what I'm actually supposed to say. And you know, it's always worked. In that moment when I relax, what I'm supposed to say comes to me. So, it's always good to work on having an escape valve. Conclusion, as the red light shines at me. Becoming a good impromptu speaker is about becoming an instant content generator, thinking of interesting things to say and saying them well. Helpful ways of doing this are: look for preparation opportunities and take advantage of them. Approach it like a game. Learn to have fun playing regardless of how well you think you are or are not doing, regardless of the outcome. Relax. Get creative. Don't be afraid to be a little unconventional. This is your chance to be a kid again. Enjoy it. If you do these things, I guarantee you will improve. And it will get more natural for you. Once it's a habit, you may find yourself excelling without all of the preparation, which is the holy grail of impromptu speaking.